In the Baha'i faith, October 20th is a holy day that celebrates the birth of the Bab. The Bab, which means gate in Arabic, is a messenger of God who prepared the world for the coming of the Promised One, Baha'u'llah. On this holy day, Baha'is have no set ceremonies. However, the gatherings usually include prayers, devotional readings, and fellowship.
To the wall of our room, yeah, you chained me like a dog in our room.
This is people walking a path together. So one of the main tenets of the Baha'i faith is unity, and so this is our unified effort to walk a path of service together. In 1844, and that's when the Bab declared his mission, and his name means the gate. And he was the prophet forerunner to Baha'u'llah, and that's whose birthday we're celebrating today. And the Bab said, purify your heart so you'll be ready, because there's another prophet coming after me. And that was Baha'u'llah. And Baha'u'llah's name in Arabic means the glory of God. And he's the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. The Bab started the Baha'i faith, and almost all the Baha'is became Baha'is, because his main message was to look for another prophet. And so that's how the Baha'i faith got started. Baha'u'llah publicly declared his mission in 1863, and then Abdul-Baha is Baha'u'llah's son, and Abdul-Baha's title is Servant of the Glory, and that's exactly what it means. I mean, his given name was something else. I don't want to say it because I might get it wrong. He was the eldest son of Baha'u'llah, and another title that he has is Center of the Covenant. And so Abdul-Baha, in his will and testament, Baha'u'llah in his will, he appointed Abdul-Baha as the center of the covenant. When he passed away, he told all the Baha'is to look to Abdul-Baha and listen to Abdul-Baha. And so all the Baha'is did. And Abdul-Baha, in his will and testament, he told all the Baha'is to look to Shoghi Effendi. And Baha'u'llah and Abdul-Baha, and through Abdul-Baha's interpretation, laid out a framework for an administrative order for the Baha'i faith. And Shoghi Effendi was the grandson of Abdul-Baha, and he's the guardian of the Baha'i faith. And when Abdul-Baha passed on, his will and testament laid the administrative responsibility of the faith on Shoghi Effendi's shoulders. He was 23, 25, I'm not really sure, young man, grieving over the death of his grandfather. He always thought that he would be Abdul-Baha's assistant. He was still in college, I believe. He went to Oxford University in England. And Shoghi Effendi guided the Baha'i faith for several years. I don't know the years. Do you know? We should, but I don't. And when Shoghi Effendi passed on, there was the groundwork laid for the Universal House of Justice, but the Universal House of Justice had not been elected at the time. But over the course of, the Universal House of Justice was elected in 1953, I believe. And the Universal House of Justice is the supreme institution of the Baha'i faith, who consult and guide the entire Baha'i world. And the Universal House of Justice has the love and respect and obedience of all of the Baha'is in the world. They write us letters, and we read them and study them and try to carry out the directives that are in the letters from the Universal House of Justice. Today is a Baha'i holy day. It's the birth of the Bab. And the Baha'i faith began in 1844 with the Declaration of the Bab. And so I wanted to tell a couple of stories. We're going to tell a couple of stories about his life. Shelby and I are going to tell one story, and then Ron is going to tell a story. And then after Ron tells a story, we're just going to have a moment, a minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, I don't know, a quiet time. So that during that time, after Ron finishes his last reading, let's just be as quiet as we can and as still as we can. And then from there, we will go straight into saying prayers. And then after that, we're going to circle around, which means everybody gets the chance to talk and talk about what we are grateful for. Story about the Bab starts in Shiraz. That was where the Bab was born and lived, and that was where one of his first followers began spreading the Bab's teachings. And the governor of the area, they said he was evil and wicked, and he tortured this follower of the Bab, and then when he had his, then he turned his attention and his anger to the Bab. The Bab was on pilgrimage in Mecca and Medina, and he was returning to Shiraz at this time. So the governor told his guards, he said, go and find the Bab in Bushir, next town over, and bring him back in chains to me. And so at this same time when he's saying this, the Bab is in Bushir, and he's on his way to Shiraz. And so the Bab runs into this group of guards and soldiers in a wooded glen. And I'm telling this story as it was recounted by the leader of the guards. And so he said they were in this glen, and he saw the Bab, and he knew who he was. He knew that's the person that he was looking for. And so he's just kind of figuring out in his head what his plan is going to be, how he's going to capture him and take him back. And the Bab came up to him. So the guard was just so surprised that the Bab was actually coming up to him. And he just couldn't understand his candor and his willingness to give himself up. And so he kind of tried to ignore the Bab. He just didn't have his act together and didn't really know what to do. So the guard was just overwhelmed, and instinctively he got off of his horse, and he went over to the Bab, and he kissed the stirrups of the Bab's horse, and he pleaded with the Bab. He said, by the God that has created you with loftiness and power, he said, I beg you to leave this area, flee from the machinations of the governor. He said, I don't want to be an instrument of his designs. I know he wants to hurt you. So instead of going to Shiraz in chains, the Bab walked freely and nobly into the city with the guards following respectfully behind him. And this is just an example of something that looks like a crisis, where the Bab is going to be captured and tortured, but in all actuality it becomes a victory, because his nobility and his power and his loftiness were what the people saw instead of a prisoner. The Bab's message was that prepare your heart, because one whom God shall make manifest, who I am but a ring on his finger, is coming.
God, he is God. All are his servants, and all abide by his bidding. Whether traveling or at home, and in my occupation or in my work, I place my whole trust in thee. Grant me then thy sufficing help, so as to make me independent of all things, O thou who art unsurpassed in thy mercy.
We are drops
We are drops
of one ocean.
of one ocean.
We are leaves
We are leaves
of one sea.
of one tree.
Join us in our quest for unity.
I'll get it someday. Of life for you.
of one tree. Come and join us in our quest for unity. It's a way of life for you and me.
All the world
is
one country.
one country.
Man is one.
Man is one.
Can't you see?
Can't you see?
Come and join us.
Come and join us in our quest for unity. It's a way of life for you and me.
Come and join us.
Come and join us
in our quest for unity.
It's a way of life for you and me.
Someday we'll get that straight, you know.
Maybe we could try it one more time.
Tied to my